Welcome to the channel. My name is Matthias. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting terrorist group slash cult called Aum Shinrikyo that has a fascinating and very scary story because they were a group that were very close to obtaining a weapon of mass destruction. So I have been trying to do this online course on a really great platform. It's called EDX, and it's about terrorism and how terrorist groups have tried to obtain weapons of mass destruction. And in the introduction of the course, they start talking about this group, Aum Shinrikyo. When they rose to prominence and sadly went through this very terrible attack in Japan, I was very young. And after that, at least in the headlines, you never seen this group pop up again. Note to self, I would have to double check if there are any remnants left of Aum Shinrikyo. But the shocking thing was the fact that this cult slash terrorist group were able to create their own weapon of mass destruction. They try to use it. They were not able to get all the kinks out, so it didn't have the desired effect, thankfully. Now, the shocking thing was when I got into reading about this group, I had no idea that they had tried to obtain a nuclear weapon and they end up falling back on nerve gas. Now, the group itself was like this Doomsday cult with this very weird fixation on trying to provoke the apocalypse in the first place. Now, on a religious level, they took ideas from Buddhism, Hinduism, that very oddly don't have a apocalyptic slant to them, at least to my knowledge. I might be totally wrong. Also, yoga training was a big part in being in this cult. I knew it. It's probably the yoga. The yoga pushed them to want the end of the world. But the thing is that some crazy ideas started to fester within this group, especially because it had a charismatic leader. His name was Shoko Asahara. Sorry if I mispronounced that last name. It always happens when you have these groups that start going in the direction of being a cult, a sect. You have these charismatic leaders. It's like the power and control just completely corrupts the minds of these leaders. Or maybe there's just straight up psychopaths from the start. I don't know, but the thing is that since this group was seen as a religious organization, they were not scrutinized by the Japanese government. They were not surveilled. So it seems that this group had two main activities. It had like constructive social work where they would get new members, and on the other hand, trying to get weapons of mass destruction like a normal charitable group would do. And the thing is that through legitimate means and businesses, they were able to amass a very large amount of money. They would use these funds to recruit scientists, which they were able to have on their payroll 300 scientists. Now, thank God that most of the scientists that they recruited, since they seemed to have cheaped out, they were going for all new graduates, not scientists with tons of experience, thankfully, because this will lead to their botched first attack. Because I can imagine like a scientist that has done a ton of prestigious work, has had a very long trajectory in his respective field, would have a lot of questions if you would have to make a nuclear weapon or a nerve gas for a religious group. I'm not sure how they were contracted, if they were contracted to work for Aum Shinrikyo as a religious group, or they had like a shell company. So the thing is that the people at Shinrikyo tried very, very hard to get nuclear material. They actually went to ex-Soviet countries. They tried to bribe ex-Soviet officials. It didn't work. At least with this example, we can sort of strike down the myth that Russia was selling off all their nuclear material and nuclear weapons. It is just one example, but I really should do a deep dive on that. It sounds to be like a fascinating subject. Not only they had gone to ex-Soviet countries, they also went to Australia and tried to purchase uranium there. But the thing is that they were like falling behind in schedule because in 1995 was going to be the apocalypse, so they had to get the ball rolling. So they decided to use sarin gas. That was their plan B. They started off with small individual attacks. The 20th of March of 1995 was when they did their first and only attack on the subway system of Tokyo. Now, one big question would be why they would do these attacks, why they would want to provoke the apocalypse. And it seemed that the idea and the logic behind this is that their attacks would provoke a nuclear war, and Aum Shinrikyo would be able to survive, come out on top, and rule the world. It sounds like crazy shit that a supervillain would do from a comic book. This extremely crazy fantasy led to the death of 13 innocent people, and another 6,000 people were intoxicated. So this unhinged dream that the leader of this cult had just went really off the rails, and it's so scary that stuff like this can happen. Thank God he cheaped out with the scientists, but that aside, we're going to leave this video here. Hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye.